Hi, I'm Jim Del Vecchio. We're going over this video entitled Saving, the Key to Wealth Creation. And I hope it's going to be very educational and very motivational for you. Okay, just the basics. Not everyone will try the ideas suggested in this program. I'm going to give you the basic foundation. And I know not everyone will try it, but take what you like and leave the rest. The goal is to generate some ideas and share some practices that have worked for others. I found through experience many people will run down ideas about saving, and that just keeps them stuck. So I'm hoping for you that you're going to be forearmed and forewarned that when the negative thinking comes in, and many times it will, because we live in a consumer society, unfortunately, fortunately it's nice that we have all these wonderful things we can buy, gadgets and so forth, but on the other hand, there's a lot of temptation out there to purchase things and spend your money, and many people are frittering away their retirement savings. So I'm giving you some forewarning. So when a negative idea comes into your mind, if you start to think like, oh, well, that'll never work, and it doesn't work anymore. A lot of people say, well, that used to work years ago, but it won't work anymore. Well, it does work. So try to combat that negative thinking. Try to stay positive. Open mind equals creative mind. And you need a creative, flexible mind to find different ways to save. Companies spend an enormous amount of money on advertising. They try to get you to spend your money. I have a degree in marketing, and I studied advertising. And believe me, there's very sophisticated ways to get you to spend your money, to convince you that you don't look good enough, that you don't smell good enough, that you don't measure up to your peers. They're trying all different kinds of psychological ways to get you to spend your money. So you have to be wise about this. And women spend about 85% or more of the money from their household. So women are a target, and women need to be aware of this. Don't fall for their tricks. If you can keep yourself from falling into that trap of feeling like you have to have this or you have to have that and spend a lot more money for it, you're going to be way far ahead in the future, believe me. And just become alert. Just when you see something, question it. Question about the idea. For example, I used to say, if I wanted to sell a sports car, who buys sports cars? Some women do, but many times young men buy sports cars. So if I wanted to make a sports car, I'm going to gear it to young men. How would I do that? Well, I put a racing stripe on it. I put a really snazzy chrome wheels and racing. Put a girl in an advertisement, a pretty girl in the passenger seat. Everything that they try to do to capture young men or whatever the demographic is, they're going to try to use those tricks to get you to buy. And I'm not saying that these are mean, nasty companies. Please don't misunderstand me. They're in the business of trying to sell their product. There's nothing wrong with that. So they're going to use whatever tricks are at their disposal to get you to buy. But you're a consumer, and I believe in being a wise consumer. So you can say, well, I understand that company's trying to make a profit for their shareholders, and they're trying to do this, but I need to be aware of what I want. Is this the way I want to spend my money? Do I want to spend an extra $10,000 on a car when another car can get me to where I want to be, and I can invest that money for my retirement? Now, big thing is at this point in time is SUVs, and many times these advertisements show vehicles going off the road, but studies show that very few of these vehicles are actually taken off the road, so it's a good advertising tactic. Some good general advice if you want to save is to treat it like a hobby or a game. Make it enjoyable. Don't feel like you're being deprived. And as a matter of fact, once you achieve some success, maybe once a month, go out to dinner or something. Just reward yourself for saving money. Consumer debt is like digging yourself a trap. It's like digging a hole because you're paying interest on the money, and you're paying not only principal, but you're paying interest. And so more and more money is going. More and more money is going out. If you get out of that hole, if you pay off your debt, and you can start to invest money now. And then you start to enter like a positive cycle instead of a negative cycle. You're entering a positive cycle where you're earning interest on that money, and you're going up in a nice progression, as opposed to going down faster and faster because you're paying more money on the principal. Now you're earning money on the principal, and as you see, if you've looked at some of my other videos on investing, that compound interest graph is really pretty amazing. At the end, as you give it time, it really moves. And some people call this debt elimination plan. They might call it a debt snowball plan. Whatever you call it, it works like this. You pay off, you might say, with the easiest debt you can. That's what I would do. Let's say it's a $50 a month payment. So you save money, you pay it off, and now you've got fixed $50 extra per month that you didn't have before. And the next one is, say, a car payment of $100 a month. So now you have the $50 that you paid off, extra money, then you paid off the $100 a month. Now you have $150 extra to apply to the next debt. And you can pay off your debt more easily because you won't miss the money. You were paying the same amount anyway. So you're just applying the money in a different way. You paid it off, and you're used to living on that much money. So now you take that same amount of money and pay off the next debt. Amy Decision, who is the author of the Complete Tightwad Gazette, raised 6 kids on a modest income. And her husband was with it. It's nice if your spouse is with you on this. And they both really worked at it. In 1 year, I think they had 4 kids when they did this. In their first year, they kept records. They saved 43% of their gross income. And their income was not that high. I tried to do some calculations. They lived in Maine at the time. And I think I estimated their gross income to be about 15% below the median income. And on the internet, I found a story of a young couple who saved over 80% of their gross. Now, the woman had 2 jobs, the man had like 3 jobs or 4 jobs or something. Very hardworking, they were very frugal, and they were able to buy a house and pay it off in about 5 years. Many experts in savings will say that you can pay off your home in 5 to 7 years by doing their program. I paid off my home. I paid off a few homes actually in about the same time. My father did the same thing, and the boss that hired me for my job as a counselor did the same thing. They paid off their homes in about 5 years or so. I used to save about 20 to 25% of my gross. So it is possible. A lot of people say it's impossible. That's not impossible. You can do it. And it's nice to know that there are people, once you see the people have done it, and they've had children and everything, and if they can do it, you can do it. Okay, here's some tips. Make saving automatic. That's a big thing. If you just leave it to your own devices, if you're not a natural saver, you probably are not going to do it. It's going to be like a big willpower thing. If you just make it automatic, that would be great. If you have payroll deduction through your employer, that is wonderful because that's automatic. It just is deducted from your check. You don't miss it. And what you would do is if you, very good technique is if you get a raise, let's say you get a 2% raise, 3% raise, you're already living on that amount of money, you put the raise into your savings. So your income doesn't change at all, but you've got more money going into savings. So if you do it yourself, if you don't have payroll deduction, commit to save whatever you can and then try to hold to that. And many times it's called pay yourself first. And you put the money into savings, even though you might not live that way now. You just automatically, whatever you decide to do, and many times I would suggest start small so you know you can do it. And you might start with $10 or whatever per paycheck. And then once you see that, hey, I can live off 10, I can live, I don't even miss it. It's $10, I don't even miss it. Well, then go to 15, then go to 20. And you'll find that gradually you're going to be saving quite a bit of money. And when people say it's possible, what happens? They don't try. As soon as somebody says it's impossible, well, you can't expect them to try. If it's impossible, why would you try? So they just give up. And naturally they fail. If you don't try, you're not going to succeed. This is a really simple equation. It's not rocket science. It's income, how much you make, how much you have incoming into your home, outgo, or called expenses by accountants. How much you take in is the income, how much goes out is the outgo, and then there's a net income. It's what you have over after you spend your paycheck. The income must be larger than the outgo. It can't be more simple than that. It's really pretty simple. It's just a matter of, it comes down to you. Can you do it? Can you get yourself to do it? So for many, it's a lack of motivation and discipline, and I would say also a lack of knowledge. Some people just don't know that they can do it, and hopefully this video will educate them. So do you have the motivation and discipline required? Is your future that important to you? The future of your family, your children? Maybe you want to help, if you had more money, maybe you could help pay for your college education for your children or your grandchildren or whatever. There's many, many wonderful things you can do with more money. And again, it could be a lack of knowledge. And then I would ask you, are you willing to get the knowledge? The knowledge is out there. This video is, it's a short video, but it's some knowledge. Are you willing to maybe go to the library and get a book, or get one out of the bookstore, or through one of the online booksellers? I'd like to talk about the 4 C's, just to have an acronym that's easy to remember. And I'd like to encourage people to think about this. Your first job, especially when you're young, or if you haven't saved much, your first job is conservation. And by that I mean saving. Basically conserving your money. Don't spend it frivolously. Make sure you're saving a good amount. Once you get some savings and then you start to invest it and start to make money on your investments, that will provide you with a cash flow if you needed it. If you ever needed it, you could take money out. I was a career counselor for a long time. I dealt with many people that are collecting unemployment insurance. They lost their job. Now you might be, I've had a lot of people at my desk that were employed 10, 15 years or more, and some of them made pretty good money. And a lot of them didn't save very much. Well, those that did save, that was saving for a rainy day. If they lost their job, maybe if their unemployment insurance didn't cover it, if they needed a little bit longer to get a job, they would take some of their investing, and they took some of that cash flow. I would suggest reinvesting dividends and interest, keep on reinvesting it so that you're not really taking the cash flow yet. You're waiting, you're deferring it. It's a deferred gratification, deferring it to later. But if you lose your job and you need that money, you can take a little bit out, take a little bit of that cash flow out. But anyway, that's the idea. Conservation, saving, investing, which will provide a cash flow. And then once you get to a certain level, and you will hopefully know what that level is, then you can put it into circulation. That's when you spend, and I don't mean just buying food and basic clothing. You might want to spend, when you get to a certain point where you're doing well, you might want to spend on some luxuries. Maybe you want to buy a little bit nicer car or whatever. Not to go hog wild, but to have a little bit of luxuries that you want. When you put that money into circulation, you're providing jobs for people and you're keeping people in jobs. So that's positive. And then if you keep on doing this and you do really well, and then I would suggest thinking about charity giving to people that are less fortunate. Sometimes I see people don't save for their own retirement, and yet they're giving to charity. That's saying they're giving to people who are poor, but they're basically assuring that they're going to be poor when they get to be older because they're not saving. So these are the steps that I suggest. Saving, investing, provide a cash flow, then spending a little bit when you get up to a certain level, when you get on easy street, so to speak. And then, if your cup runneth over, and then think about charity giving and helping people that are less fortunate. But you want to take care of yourself first, because you don't want to be a person who needs a charity in your older years, right? So conservation is the most important part. Learn how to save. The Complete Tightwad Gazette is an excellent book, and there are other good books on saving. Just, they're easy to read. It just takes a little bit of work, which means motivation, a little bit of discipline. Instead of watching TV at night, maybe read some of these books, go over some ideas. It'll give you ideas on saving, how you can really get it done. Cash flow, saving, investing, your portfolio will grow, and one day it'll produce a harvest all its own. And then it will provide you with cash flow that you can live on. It's like building a launching pad. That's what I heard one person say. And basically you're saving, you're building that foundation. It's a launching pad on which to launch your rocket, and which I've shown you in some of the other videos, and maybe we'll get into a little bit here today too, where you can possibly make 20% or more on your investments. That's relating to my video on individual stocks, With individual stocks, there's a more risk, but there's more reward that you can get out of it. So if you're interested in that, it's more costly. The video itself costs money, but it's still a very good deal when you're going to be learning how to make 20%, hopefully 20% in your investments or more. And then your investments take off. So you built that launching pad, and once your investments take off, you're going to be in good shape. And there's that graph on the compounding effect. Now this I came up with some years ago in order to capture the attention of young people. I was having groups and I was talking about retirement. As soon as I mentioned the word retirement, I saw all the young people in my group, their heads would go down like that. And I thought, well, that retirement is like, there must be the word is too far off to them. They just lose interest. So then I started to say, well, let's take a hypothetical 25-year-old. And when I said that, they perked their heads up and they were listening. And I said, let's say we took this 25-year-old, and let's say this 25-year-old could save $5,000, and they never saved another dime for the rest of their life. They put this $5,000 in a Roth IRA, let's say, earning 10%, and they just kept it there for 40 years, earning 10%. Well, at this point, which is 20 years, it grows, that 5,000 grows to 33,000, which is nice. But notice the compounding effect here. After the next 20 years, it grows to over 200, about 205,000 when the person is 65 years old, if it's a 25-year-old starting. So that's the effect of compounding. What you're doing is taking the earnings or the interest from previous periods, and it starts to be like a snowball effect, like in reverse. I think about, if you roll a snowball down a hill, it grows bigger and bigger as it goes down. This one gets bigger and bigger as it goes up. So this is the compounding effect. And a lot of people quote Einstein. I don't know if it's true, but Einstein said this was the most amazing thing he's ever seen, is the effect of compounding. So once you have a good cash flow, spend some of the money, help others, then you can help the economy without hurting yourself. That's the circulation. And then the charity. Once you get way ahead, you can give to those who are less fortunate. I like to think of needs versus wants. This has been very helpful to me when I started saving because, let's say most people think we all need a car or we all need transportation. So, and you have various choices in this wonderful capitalism society that we live in. There are choices in various price points. So we can buy one of those high-end cars and spend $55,000 on it, or we can buy cars. I still see cars advertised for like $14,000, $13,000, or something like that, or maybe even less than that if you get it on a deal or something. So just be thinking about, do I really need a $55,000 car? Not likely. You can get from point A to point B very well with a very cheap car, and you can do a used car also and get it really cheap. So before you spend a significant amount, think about that. Get creative. Think about ways to substitute low-cost options. For example, I play golf. But if I was poor, I wouldn't play golf. I would say, well, I could take a walk in the park. I could take a walk on the beach or something like that. That's the only thing that I'm missing is hitting the ball. But basically, I'm out there in nature. That's one of the things I love about golf, is being out in a beautiful setting, walking around. Now everybody needs housing. You could find low-cost housing. You could take a roommate. Always, review your expenses and look for ways to save. One of the things I like to say to people is, how do you think people, if you're familiar with Southern California, there's a lot of Mexican immigrants come over that border, right? And some of these people, in a few years, buy a home. And Southern California is not cheap typically. It's a high-priced area. How do you think poor Mexican immigrants, or illegal aliens sometimes, come over with no shoes on in some cases, and end up being able to buy a home? Well, what they do is that they live with other families or people they know, maybe 2 or 3 families to a home. They work like crazy. They save their money like crazy, pool their resources, and then they save enough money to get a down payment on a house, and then they get their house. If they can do it, we can do it. Other people can do it. It's something that's my family did coming from Italy. They had upstairs, they had 2 stories home, and upstairs were 4 bedrooms, and they sold out those bedrooms. They rented them out during the summer, during the tourist season, to people coming up from New York City, let's say, or down from Canada, Montreal, and they would come in and rent a room for a week or something like that. They made some extra money. So again, you can get creative. I would suggest tackling your highest expense categories first. Now, the largest expenses typically are housing, taxes, unfortunately, transportation, and food are the highest, in that order. So I would say try to save in these important areas first. Now, housing is the first one, the biggest one. You can save over $100,000 on your home if you look around for the lowest interest rate, if you look around for when prices are low. For example, I just bought a home, and we're coming up from in 2005 was the peak of the housing market, and many times prices keep falling, typically for about 5, 6, 7 years. So 2011, 2012, the housing market bottomed out. I bought it in January of 2013, and I just realized I already made $24,000 on it. I bought it, the base price was $160,000, so $161, and now the base price is $186. So I made some money. I'm not even moved in. It's not even built yet, and I made a pretty good profit on it. So how you can time the market with housing too. And sometimes I couldn't do this because this is a new home that's being built, but many times you can buy it below the asking price. Throw out a suggestion, 10, 20% lower, and see if they'll take it, or maybe they'll negotiate a little bit from there. Pay the mortgage off early. That's when you're saving, like I'm suggesting. If you have a mortgage, pay it off early. And by doing all these things, you can save over $100,000 on your home, on most homes. And we just went over that. How can poor immigrants afford a home? Keep the thermostat down in the winter, but up in the summer. Save a lot of money that way. I moved to Florida from upstate New York, and I'll tell you, in upstate New York in the winter, my heating bill, I think I had electric heat, it was like $400 a month or something. And here, my electric bill is like $55 or something. It's because I don't use the air conditioning. I have a nice breeze, and unless it gets really hot, I don't need to use air conditioning. I put on fans. Ceiling fans are a lot more economical to operate. Let the sun stream in when the temperature is cool, and close the shades to keep the sun out if it's warm. Use fans instead of an air conditioner. Don't overuse ovens or clothes dryers. These kinds of appliances they suck a lot of energy. Even with the new energy efficient appliances, that's helped, but they still suck a lot of energy. So be thinking about that. Think about drying clothes on a line or a rack instead of a dryer. I went to Italy a few years ago, and there were clotheslines all over the place. I couldn't believe it. They don't. Many times they don't even have dryers. We stayed in a nice villa, had everything but a dryer that American homes have. So close the refrigerator door quickly. I mean, you'd be surprised. You keep that refrigerator door open a long time, it's really sucking a lot of energy. Do a lot of work around the house if you can. A lot of people are handy. I'm not myself, but a lot of people are, and I know they can do a lot of work themselves. Save on rent. If you're renting instead of buying, look around for a good rental place. I rented for many years, and I always would look around, and it was amazing how I could find places to rent. I remember one place I had when I lived in upstate New York. I was overlooking the Mohawk River, and a friend of mine came in. I think I was paying $500 a month. A friend of mine came in who lived near Manhattan, and he looked at that view and he said, "Do you know what you'd pay for a place like this in Manhattan?" And I said, "What are you paying?" And I said, "It was like $500 a month." So you look around, you can find a cheap place that's many times very nice. You could take a roommate. That could help you save money. Okay, taxes. It's not I'm not a tax person. I'm not an accountant, but there's some basic things like you can utilize the Roth IRAs, medical savings accounts, college savings accounts. There's other programs that enable you to contribute to a savings program on a tax advantage basis. I worked for state government. We used to have a deferred compensation plan where I put money away and it wasn't taxed. So it's taxed when I get it back out again. But that's the nice thing with the Roth IRAs. You pay the tax, and then for the rest of the life of your investment, that money is tax-free. So that would be good for people now. They didn't have it back years ago when I was starting to save. Take advantage of any employer match. Now, there's sometimes some employers will match you like 100%, up to 3% of your pay or something like that. And for that 3% that they match, you've made 100% with no risk, without having to lift a finger. I mean, how great is that? And get a tax advisor and pick their brain. I think it's worth it if you can find somebody that you don't pay them a lot of money, pay them a fee, an hourly fee, and get some ideas on how to save in taxes. Or again, you could read some of these books. I might have some ideas too. Transportation. Maybe you can get along with a scooter or a motorcycle. There's more people doing that now. Over in Europe, again, over in Italy, in Rome in particular, there's these little scooters that people take all around. There's a lot of people that have it. So that could save you a lot of money. And new cars depreciate most in the first 2 to 3 years. So you might, if you could find a good used car, that can be very helpful. If you could find a competent, honest mechanic who has reasonable prices, that can save you a lot of money on repairs. Always shop around for the best deal. You'll be amazed that, don't just take the first one that comes along. Sort of survey the market. What I do is I survey the market for a while, and then I pounce when I see some really good deal. I know there was some people that they buy from private owner a car, and they'll offer much less, but they'll offer cash. And many times the owner will take the cash as opposed to, with another person that might have to deal with a loan. If you sort of flash that cash in front of them, they many times will take it at a discount, big discount. One man bought at 50% of the asking price. He fixed it up, he drove it, and then he sold it for more than he paid. This was a story in the Complete Tightwad Gazette. So I think he went for something like 17 years or 15 years where he didn't pay any money for transportation because he kept doing this. He kept doing it over and over again. Now for food. Basically eat at home. That's really important. When you go out to restaurants, it's nice to go out to a restaurant, but you're getting the markup, their markup and all their expenses. You have to cover all their expenses and a profit. So it's much more expensive typically than eating home. If you eat vegetables, and if you don't mind cheap food like spaghetti, I mean, if you're really, I wouldn't say for everybody, wouldn't want to do this, but if you're a struggling artist or if you're a poor student or something like that, this is what I did when I was a student. I would eat spaghetti, peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese. Frozen vegetables are very cheap, and you still buy a bag for like 99 cents or $1.19 or something at the present time. You can eat really cheap. And avoid snacks because they can be expensive, and definitely expensive restaurants. You want to stay away from them if you want to save a lot of money. And you can find a cheap cell phone. I have a cell phone deal now. It's less than $20 a month. Now I don't get a lot of features for that, and it's different. If you have a business, I would say maybe those cell phone deals, it might pay for itself. But there's a lot of people that are paying a lot of money for cell phone deals, in my opinion, that really I don't think it's really worth it. As for me, all I need a cell phone for is for emergencies and make some basic calls. I don't need to surf the internet or do anything fancy like that. And you can get free material from the library instead of buying a book. The other day I was talking about a book that I liked, and I just remembered that I could probably get it online and download it, and it was free. I downloaded this wonderful little book, and it didn't cost anything. And also the added advantage when you eat like this, if you eat a diet very high in vegetables, you're going to lose weight and you're going to stay healthier by eating this way. And if you save well, you're going to get out of debt, you're going to save money, you're going to put it in the bank at first. When you save 6 months expenses for emergencies, that's what typically they say, then invest the rest. You want to have an emergency fund ready for that rainy day if you lost your job or you have a medical expense or whatever. But then over and above that amount, invest it. Start to build your launching pad and see me about going to the next step with investing and making some good money. Good luck. I wish you good luck and creativity, open-mindedness, persistence, and motivation. You're going to reap many rewards by saving. Please let me know how it goes. And we have a number of courses and videos. The Trading Secrets course is really great if you want to make a lot of money in the stock market. And you can just let us know if you have such an interest. And there's my contact information. Good luck, everybody. God bless.